Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Chai Chat and Community. I'm going to be your host for tonight. I'm Dr. Jyothsna Rao from a manager at Indian Care. So I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and waters upon which I live, work, and play, the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I would like to welcome Katrina Barrett and Chinmayananda for our session on financial literacy. So why don't the two of you let us and the viewers know something about yourself. Katrina, over to you.
Thank you, Jyothsna. Hello, everyone. And it's a real pleasure to be here talking to you tonight. I'm a financial counsellor, and I've been working as a financial counsellor for 17 years in the community. And the last 2 years, I've been working at Eastern Community Legal Centre in an elder abuse team, working in a health justice partnership with Eastern Health. And as part of that role, I also do some presentations on financial literacy and prevention of elder abuse. Thank you.
Chinmay, what about you?
Okay, I call myself as a financial educator, business storyteller, pricing strategist, all fancy names. End of the day, all I do is help people in business make more money than they spend. Many people think I'm a qualified bookkeeper or an accountant or a chartered accountant. So let me make it clear at the very beginning, I do not have any finance or accounting or commerce background from any university as such. I'm a civil engineer. Again, now in India, there's a funny saying, first you become engineers and then you ask, what am I supposed to do in life? Same thing, monkeys see, monkeys do. I did my MBA at RMIT, and I thought having MBA next to my name, I could run a successful business. Well, that wasn't the case. Nothing against RMIT, nothing against MBA. In fact, I teach finance at RMIT today. It was all because of my ignorance, and I failed in 6 startups, and that is how I learned what not to do in business. One thing led to another. Today, I educate people on the subject finance. So that's a little bit about me and how I ended up doing what I'm doing. Jyothsna, over to you.
That is such a fascinating thing. So I'll just tell you how I saw and heard about you. I started following you on LinkedIn, Chinmay, because of the epic posts on Mami and mangoes. And I thought, oh, that is so fascinating. It was all to do with money. And Katrina, you and I, we have a partnership. Indian Care has a partnership with Eastern Community Legal Centre, and we'll be working very closely on educating our South Asian community on finances. Anyway, so my next question now is, why is financial literacy so important?
Okay, I'll start. I think people work hard for their money, and being financially literate or capable means they've got more chance of hanging on to it. You know, you work hard, you don't want to lose it. And knowing more means that you've got more security and you're not going to fall prey to predatory lenders who might be charging more interest than they need to, or people who are going to have a scam and suck you in so that you lose some of your hard working money. It also means that if something does happen, that you know where to go. In Australia, there's lots of free resources that you don't actually need lawyers for, even though I work for a legal centre, I can say this. There's financial counsellors who are free, always are free. The financial counsellors are different to financial advisors. Some people get us confused to financial advisors, but financial advisors, like Chinmay was saying before, you know, he's not going to be telling you how to invest your money, and that's the same with financial counsellors. We help people once they sort of get into trouble, and we're always a free service. So you'll, being financially literate, you'll know how to find either an ombudsman who might be able to help you for free, or a financial counsellor.
Great point. I think it's also very common to say in Australia, better the money in my pocket than in the bank, isn't it? Yes, and for all these international students listening to it, please remember that if you go to Eastern Community Legal Centre, you can get advice for free. All right, Chinmay, what do you think? Why is it so important?
See, whether we like it or not, we are all part of a system called banking and monetary system. The question is, do we know how it functions? Do we know at least the basics, the fundamentals? It's like, imagine we are playing a game, let's say a game of chess, and I don't know the rules of the game. I'm sure that I might end up losing, and then again I'll be playing with all the guesswork and little knowledge that I might have. So same thing when it comes to financial literacy. No, finance, it comes with the word no money, currency, numbers, so on and so forth. Do we know how that monetary system, how money works? And if not, I'm afraid with all the whatever we would understand, the little information that we would get from people around, we try testing it without really understand the basics. So this is where it becomes very critical. So to keep it simple, it's like knowing the rules of the game and playing it very well. So I would say that's why it's very critical for us to be financially literate.
Good point. And I think that's also very important for young migrants who come into Australia, because I think that there would be a need to understand how it works here. So I guess my next question would be that what do you think are the common misconceptions, and how can we then break that down to make it more accessible, the information more accessible to our people?
Chinmay?
Oh yeah. See the again, whether we like it or not, world runs on perception, not reality. And we all have this perception when we hear the word finance. It's like, oh, it's complicated. It's something beyond my scope of understanding. In fact, back in 2013, 14, 15, I closely was doing research with liquidators and administrators, analyzing all the failed businesses. And during that process, I also got an opportunity to meet a lot of business owners, and I used to sometimes play this association game. I used to tell them, I will tell you a word, and you will have to tell me what comes to your mind first. Dog, cat, family, beach, and after 5, 6 words, I used to randomly throw finance, accounting. Where went so that's the perception people have. Numbers are scary. Finance is beyond my scope of understanding. I don't understand what my accountant is trying to tell. I'm not sure what exactly I need to understand. Probably I need to be really good at maths, or I need to have some kind of a commerce subject while I was studying in school. So these are all the misconceptions. In fact, that's the reason I mentioned while I was introducing myself that I do not have any finance or accounting or commerce background, which means it is not mandatory to understand this subject. End of the day, it all comes down to numbers. So let's take just a step back, Jyothsna. Now, a chai chat and community, you decided to have this particular session on 5th of September. 5 numbers at 8 o'clock Melbourne time, 8 o'clock numbers. Now, all three of us on this forum, we are wearing specs. We know the power of a glass, numbers. Now, as we are speaking, there is a cricket match being played between India and England. So they're accordingly deciding how to score, how to play the game, who is winning, who is losing by looking at numbers. Again, look at the news channels. These many number of COVID cases, these many people got tested, these many people got vaccinated. The point I'm trying to make here is almost every decision we make in our life is directly or indirectly related to numbers. And we are doing it every single day. But unfortunately, when it comes to finance, whether it is personal finance or business finance, we are like, oh, you know what? I'm a non-finance person. I think it's responsible of my accountant. It's responsible of some finance manager, or it's responsible of my, let's say, husband or my father or someone else in the family. But I'm a very creative person. I'm not good at numbers. So these are the misconceptions that we have. And this is something that we need to break so that we can understand the subject better. And I believe that is the intention of this particular chat.
Yes, it is. And Katrina, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I would. I would like to bring it bring it down to a sort of micro level, a personal level. I agree with Chinmay, and there can be dangers if you let other people run your finances for you, and perhaps even say that you're not capable of doing it. They need to do it, or they want to stay in control, and that can happen in cases of financial, or can lead to cases of financial abuse. And I see that a lot in my job, and it's very sad, and it's very damaging. And but if you can stay in control of your money, or at least know where to go if sometimes people, it's not just big banks that might be giving you a hard time. It might be someone in your family that might be misusing your money. So if you know what to do and that there are services that can help you, that's very important.
Yeah, good point. I think that is a very common thing as well in young families where, there needs to be that understanding. So I guess we then come to the, follow on question about what type of financial literacies or the basic financial literacies should we all know about, Chinmay?
Um, See, with continuing with what I was saying, using the cricket as an example. Now, we never, I mean, we have never seen a bowler or a batsman asking the umpire, "Hey, how should I go about bowling the next ball? How should I go about playing the next ball?" So every batsman and bowler, they make decisions based on the score, which is numbers, based on the situation. And I believe this is exactly what even Katrina is trying to emphasize. We need to make decisions, and we need to know to a great extent how the decision is going to impact whether it's a business finance or personal finance. Now, to answer your question about basic finance literacy, in fact, the perception is finance is beyond my scope of understanding, and all those perception is what people have. And this is what I keep facing when I meet a new client without finance or accounting background. And I tell them, you know what, doesn't matter if you avail my service or not, doesn't matter if you do my program or not, same thing for all the viewers here. If there's one thing that I personally feel that you should be taking away from this program is the four things. When it comes to finance, doesn't matter whether it is personal finance, business finance, there are only four things that can happen, only four types of financial transactions. Ready? Money comes in, money goes out, money is supposed to come in, money is supposed to go out, period. That's it. These are the only four types of financial transactions that are happening, whether it is personal finance or business finance. And I personally would suggest each one of us to get on top of these four financial transactions so that we make decisions based on facts and not a mere assumption. And what I have seen is, Jyothsna, finance, it's a common sense subject. Well, unfortunately, common sense is not very common. And this is what I try to emphasize again and again. Like, I don't have to tell you, you know what, it's after this session, it would be almost 9 o'clock, it's time to have dinner. I'll not say, no one needs to tell us that at 10 o'clock we need to go to bed or tomorrow morning I have a meeting. We just look at the watch and then we make decisions. Same thing when it comes to personal finance and business finance. It is all numbers, but unfortunately we are not able to understand what those numbers are meaning. So this is what we need to understand. And once we understand that, we don't really need people every single time telling us, no, you should be making this decision or that decision. I'm not saying that you should not take suggestions from experts. Yes, please do so, but don't be over dependent on them.
So then would you have some advice or information on implementing it? Any
Oh,
tools, any software that can make a life simpler with numbers?
well, there are plenty of softwares, which is around budgeting, forecasting, which is about planning and things like that. But however, I would like to emphasize on the intention behind each one of them. Now, I usually say that no, there are only two rules, whether it is in business finance or personal finance, only two rules. Rule number one, always make sure you're making more money than you're spending. That's rule number one. Earn more, spend less. Rule number two, never forget rule one. As simple as that. This is something that one has to keep in mind when they are going to make any decision. Now, I sometimes take that old school approach rather than using sophisticated software. If we can understand the why behind what we are doing, then I believe that we can more effectively use a software or a tool. Because one of my mentors used to say, a fool with a tool is still a fool. And this is what I see in most businesses. They've got all the sophisticated softwares, ERPs, everything, and still making decisions based on assumption. And they say, we don't really understand. I just look at few things. I've got this rule of thumb, and I go about making those decisions. Now, if you give me another 3-4 minutes, I can quickly show you a simple kind of personal planning sheet that one can look into, or maybe later during the chat I'll be happy to do so. Up to you, Jyothsna.
Yeah, why not? I think we'll just talk about going on from what you are saying. I'd be interested to see that tool as well. So why don't you just show it give us a quick quiz on that tool?
Okay, more than a tool, it's a simple worksheet. As I mentioned, money comes in, goes out, supposed to come in, supposed to go out. Let's keep aside the last two transactions, supposed to come in, supposed to go out. Now, money comes in. Let's refer it to our family finance. So let's treat our family as a separate entity. Now, when do you think money will come into our family or into our personal account? When we earn it either by working as an employee or as an employer, so it becomes incomes. Money also comes into our bank account when we borrow. It can be from a bank, it can be from our friends, it can be from anyone. So that becomes liabilities. Liabilities, which means anything that is borrowed has to be paid back. We will be liable. So whenever money comes in, either it will be through incomes or liabilities. And then money goes out. What happens when money goes out? Either it becomes an expense or it creates an asset. Now, people can prepare this on a simple Excel file or even just draw it and have this. Again, I'm trying to emphasize the why behind it. First, write down, list out all the income stream that you have. Do you get paid a salary? Do you work on a contract basis? Is this a full-time, part-time? You might have one or more than one. Do you get some kind of a rental income? Make sure that you have listed all of it. And again, is it on a weekly, monthly, fortnightly, one-off kind of an income? Then list all the liabilities that you have. Do you have a car loan, home loan, personal loan? Have you taken loan from a friend? What's the duration? How much interest are you going to pay? And then let's come to the assets. What kind of assets do you have? Do you have a house? Do you have a car? Do you have all these gadgets? Now, again, when it comes to assets, there are appreciating asset and depreciating asset. Property is appreciating asset, whereas car is a depreciating asset. So list down all those assets. And then let's go to the expenses. Now, I prefer the philosophy of KISS, keeping it simple and specific. So let's not try to overcomplicate it. Just pull out last month's bank statement and you'll have most of the financial transaction and figure out how much money went out of your bank account. Was it towards fixed expenses like rent, electricity bill, your mobile plan? It's fixed. How much money was spent towards variable expense? Now, because of the lockdown, we may not be eating out or having lunch. Probably we might have, or the fuel is a variable expense, traveling, variable expense. And then miscellaneous expense. These are all like one-off, where we are tempted to buy something, a gift or entertainment, things like that. What's really critical for us to understand is, when it comes to expenses, how much percentage out of 100% is your fixed expense? How much is variable? How much is miscellaneous? Is it 40, 40, 20? Is it 30, 30, 40? Or is it 20, 20, 60? Now, I don't have to come and pretty much tell people, hey, you know what, you've got too much of miscellaneous expenses, you have to cut down. Again, it's a common sense. But the thing is, we are not measuring this. We don't have these numbers. We don't have the scoreboard in front of us. No, the famous management guru, Peter Drucker, said, what gets measured gets managed. So the intention of this exercise is to measure. In the first place, we'll get to know, are we making more money than we are spending? If we are not making more money through incomes, then again, we'll have to find money from somewhere, right? This is where people are going and swiping their credit cards. So that's the intention behind it. Again, I prefer to keep it simple. People can start with this and then complicate it the way they want using different software.
I think that's a fantastic tool to use. And I think it's a very good segue into my next question about, because of COVID, a lot of people have lost jobs and their incomes have decreased. And I know from in the international student community that they've had a lot of texts and calls around fee loan scams. So I'm interested, Katrina, to then ask you that, have you heard of these financial scams and what would your advice be around these scams?
Yeah, they're everywhere. I have heard of them, and they do target particular groups of people, I think. And I've had the tax one. My young son, before he'd ever had down a job, had the tax one. So I think they're sometimes just pulling out random numbers to call. And I heard a very sad story just this last Friday of a refugee who'd been here 10 years, and he got the call, the tax scam call, that he was going to be arrested, and he went straight down and borrowed money and actually paid it to the fund before he talked to anybody. He was so scared, and it's so scared. So it's still happening, even though, you know, we're hearing about it. It's still happening. I've had it, the voicemail one. I fell to the voicemail one, which was, you know, always told not to click on links that we're not familiar with. And I had one saying it's a voicemail, and it was a voicemail from someone I know, but it was like on my computer saying there was a voice message. I didn't quite understand how I got it there, but I didn't want to not reply to that person because I think, you know, that was rude. So I clicked on it, and there's no voicemail there. And then I realised that was a scam, so I've had to change my passwords.
Oh dear.
So they're obviously trying to get inside, but, you know, trying to get access to my computer. So I think the text one is very common, and there's ones now I've heard about. You get a text on your phone saying a parcel's about to be delivered, and you can start tracking it by clicking on this link on the text message on your phone. That's a very recent one. So I think if you don't know where it's come from, if it hasn't come from a friend or a family member, then don't click on it, don't answer it. If you are concerned, then ring the organisation and find out, get the proper number of the tax office. Don't take the text or the email, the voice message you've got saying ring us. Find out the correct number of the tax office, perhaps of a statement that you've got a hard copy on your last tax return or something, and ring them if you're really concerned. But don't go clicking on anything.
Yeah. There's also Scam Watch, isn't there, in Australia?
There's Scam Watch, which if anyone Googles Scam Watch, it's part of, it's part of the ASIC website. If you Google Scam Watch, you'll have the list of the latest scams. And you mentioned people, you know, with reduced incomes now because of COVID. There's some scams where people are basically being asked to be money mules without realising it. They're seeing an ad to say that you can work from home and earn $2,000 a week, when in actual fact you're going to be asked to have money go through your bank account and then send it overseas or send it somewhere else, and that you can keep a few $100 or $1,000. You're just being part of money laundering.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like gambling also, don't you think?
You want to taking a risk. Taking a risk.
Yeah, I know that when I was a poor student, I always bought a lotto ticket in the, faint hope that I would win the million one day. So I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this, Chinmay. What do you think about the gambling and the gambler's approach to wanting to make quick money?
Well, I don't want to sit on a seat of a judge and say it's right or wrong. It's an individual's choice. But the question is, from where are you going to get that money? So again, when we say, okay, I want to gamble or I enjoy gambling, and most of the people will justify saying that, hey, you know what, it's like entertainment for me. It's a stress buster. That is, see, we tend to spend based on emotion, and we justify it using logic.
Yes.
And that's the logic we say. Oh, the logic is, no, it's entertainment for me. I go to Crown Casino or some other gambling place for fun. It's like a stress buster. Now, again, only we know what exactly is happening. What I'm interested to know is, where is that money coming from? Is it from after spending all your expenses and taking care of your assets and liabilities, and you still have a lot of money at your disposal, and then you have already invested in many different kind of assets, both physical and financial assets, and you have got some money left and you don't really care, and you're like, okay, let me invest. If that is the case, then yes, because quite a few people, they keep asking me, Chinmay, should I be investing in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency? Now, I don't know what's going to happen. In fact, I haven't done much research in that kind of a sector, and have asked people who are in that field for a long time, and even they don't give that very clear picture. And I know people who have made money, I know people who have miserably lost money. And what really kind of surprises me is people think that just because I've made money once, I think I can repeat it once again. And if you closely observe a person who is kind of addicted to going to casino, they say, you know what, I just walk in on that particular day at that particular time, I pick that particular number, which means somewhere that they think that by using those kind of strategy, they can get some end result. But there are so many external factors. And this is where now they watch a James Bond movie, and in Bond movie, yes, the Bond will say all in. It's not his money in the first place. And unfortunately, people do the same thing. And then the worst thing is when they've borrowed money and they're investing, oh boy, then straight away, now they're heading to big trouble. And probably that is where they reach out to experts like Katrina for financial counseling.
Yeah.
I should say that there are financial counsellors that specialise with gamblers, with problem gamblers. So that's right. Yeah.
And are they available through ECLC?
No, but they're all across Victoria. And if anyone rang 1800 007 007 to mention James Bond, the James Bond number 1800 007 007. That's the National Debt Helpline, and people can ask for where they can get a financial counsellor or a gambling help financial counsellor in their suburb, and they'll be able to point out. ECLC is just in the eastern suburbs, but the 1800 007 007 number would be best.
Right. So I think it's important to remember that number, 1-800-007 007. If you need a chat, please call that number. I guess my question now would be, with all of us working remotely and confined largely to our house and dependent on social media for connecting with people, there are plenty of ads and get rich quickly, whatever they're called. Many such ads come on. They target, I think it's based on some, whatever they're called, they pick up what you have typed in and they start spamming you with these words. Yeah, so what would your advice be to people who, having lost income, are pretty desperate for money and, around this problem or around this area? So who would like to go first? Katrina?
I would just say if it's really is a scam and dodgy and not a real business, then stay away, because you might get the first pay to build your confidence, but at some point it's going to stop, and you'd be better off getting a real job. And just with that, I was thinking before when Chinmay was talking about knowing, understanding the numbers, and talking about the cricket game and understanding the numbers. I think it's important for people who do have jobs to understand what their pay packet is, and that they are getting the right amount, and that they are getting the right, if they're on an award or an enterprise agreement, that they're getting the right amount for their level. And I think there have been a lot of international students who have been taken advantage of, and there's things like Job Watch and different services community legal centres that they can go to get help if they have been underpaid. I think that's as much of a danger as people going for these, shonky opportunities where they might lose their money.
Yeah, good point. So I'm very curious, Chinmay, to know, are there any words that people should look out for? Is there anything that you think tells you that this is a quick rich scheme and it's a scam or it's dodgy? How does it work?
See, personally, if I feel that it's too good to be true, then I would do my own scrutiny and then try to understand is it really what they're trying to say. I believe what happens is when we are in, it's like, no, we can't see the forest when we are inside the forest. So same thing when we are kind of engulfed in the social media, and they are really experts where they have these testimonials and proof and brand and all those things, and we immediately the subconscious mind is kind of already sold to it. And mainly it might be because of the FOMO, fear of missing out. Like one of my friend 2 years back, he invested in crypto. He's been investing here, there, and then it so happened that he invested in some cryptocurrency and he sold it. He made $20,000, and still he was not happy, simply because if he had not sold it and if he had kind of kept it for another month or so, that 20,000 would have become 80 or 100,000. And he said, Chinmay, you know what? I could have done the down payment for my new house. I didn't have to work. Napoleon Hill said, quick riches is worse than poverty. Because what's happening in our mind is, I think it was Albert Einstein who said, once a mind of a person is stretched, it will never come back to its original shape. So once we taste making money without earning for it, pretty much if you're getting it through gambling, and every time mind is like, why the hell are you working? Why the hell are you doing business? No, you can make money this way. And that is when, now for example, when I was hearing my friend sharing that, somewhere something in me went, oh man, even I should have invested. He had told me to invest. I could have taken that risk. Again, some part of me pretty much wanted to make that investment. At that time, if I see some advertisement or something like that, quick get rich quick kind of a scheme, then I'm most liable. I mean, kind of likely to invest. So this is where we need to surround ourselves with mentors and people around where we can bounce ideas, or even just picking up the call and asking experts like Katrina, financial counselor, saying, hey, something like this is happening. Is it some? Because most of the time we may not be comfortable sharing it with our friends, because we're like, oh, you know what, I don't want that person to make money. I don't want this person to know about it. I think it's something for me. And so all that is there. So all I would like to suggest is, if you think it's too good to be true, please go out there and ask an expert who may not be in your network, a professional expert, and then get it sorted.
Yeah, good point. I was just thinking about my uni days, where my parents would always tell me, only spend what you have and don't overspend, because this is your allowance. This is back in India, it wasn't in Australia. So we didn't work, when we were studying. So my dad, I remember, used to tell me, this is what you're getting this month. Try not to overspend it and learn to live within your means. When I moved here, I found it very interesting that you could put a lay-by and pay later, and then collect the thing. So I just want to know from you, Katrina, what do you think of this? Buy now, pay later.
The buy now, pay later, while they can seem convenient to spread the payments out over, say 4 or more payments for a few pay packets, ASIC did some research last year, and 1 in 5 people who used buy now, pay later actually had trouble, and they went without essential items like food or other essential items to make their buy now, pay later repayments. So really 1 in 5 are having trouble. Now, they become very expensive. If you pay late, there's late fees. Yes, there's no interest, and people go, oh, that's great, there's no interest, better than my credit card. But it's probably okay if you know that there's going to be no emergencies, that you've got a buffer in the bank, and that you can afford it. But if it's, late at night and it's a want rather than a need, and you're up late at night and you see something whiz bang on and an ad pops up, and you think, oh, I'll go into online banking and I'll do a buy now, pay later, and I don't need it, and my job's not secure, and my car payment's coming up and I don't know where that's coming from, then it's a really bad idea. And the old-fashioned, I was going to say, just the old-fashioned way, the old-fashioned lay-by that we used to have when I was growing up, where you would go and put a couple of dollars down and that item would be held in the store. You knew that you could get it for Christmas for the kids, and you'd go in every week and put down another few dollars, and over, 12 weeks or so, you'd paid it off, and then you picked up the goods. That was probably a good idea, but most places aren't doing that now. And it's really just adding the cost to the business, because the business is actually paying for the facility. and the user is paying if they pay late. So it's adding to the costs. It's probably good for the buy now, pay later companies, but I'm not convinced it's good for everybody else.
You just changed my mind on that one. And I agree with you on saving up the money, because I remember when we came here as students 25 years ago, we bought a DVD player on this. We took it on a loan and we had to pay $30 a month. And I did it the old fashioned way. I got a yoga tub and every day I would put in $2, which was easy to sacrifice as students.
Yeah.
And and so, yeah, good point. So I suspect, yeah, not everyone is disciplined to do that though, in terms of buy now and pay later. And that brings me to my next question on international students. So Indian Care supports South Asian international students from 6 countries, and COVID has been quite bad for them. They've lost their jobs, they've taken loans, and they now need to, and they also have fees that they need to pay to universities. Often, families back home have lost their businesses and income due to COVID, and they are unable to pay upfront fees and loans. So, my question is to Chinmay: what tips would you have for international students on how to manage money?
Okay. See, again, I was also an international student back in 2007, 2008 when I was doing MBA at RMIT. So I can relate to how each one of them, and also I've seen closely my housemates and other friends, how each one of them went about managing their finances. And now pretty much almost, it's what, 14, 15 years from now where each person is. I'm pretty sure it was Will Smith who said, people buy things that they do not need using money that they do not have to impress people that they do not like. So all this afterpay kind of a thing, it's kind of designed to trap people who cannot tie their hands. Now I remember this friend of mine. We were doing a MBA project together, and almost the project was done. It was all about getting the printout and the spiral binding before we make that submission. And we just worked out how much it's going to cost for each one of us and how much already we have spent. So it was pretty much like $50 ahead. One of my friend immediately said, you know what, hey, I'll make the payment using my credit card. You guys can pay me later. I had cash in my pocket because weekends I used to work. So fortunately that week happened to be the payday. So I had some cash. I gave that $50 to him. And whereas the other friend, the second one, he said, you know what, is it okay if I pay you tomorrow? The other friend said, oh, yeah, it's absolutely fine. Swiped it using credit card. I mean, 45 days interest free. He was just justifying. And then he went ahead with it. Somewhere I felt the second friend might have some kind of a financial challenge. And again, I wasn't sure how to ask him. I said, hey, buddy, is it okay if I ask you some question? I mean, you don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. He said, yeah. I mean, do you have any financial problem? Like $50 or something? I've got the pay. I mean, I don't mind lending it to you. You can pay me after a while. He said, no, I've got money. Then I went, why is that you didn't pay him? Oh, I don't have cash right now. Then I said, you know what, you can just go to the ATM. He said, oh, I don't have an ATM card. And for me, I was like, okay, something is missing. And this is what he said. Chinmay, my father has told me, again, as you were saying, Jyothsna, to kind of have each and every, it's budgeting, pretty much to keep money wherever it needs to be spent. So he has a bank account where he gets all his salary. And from that account, he has to transfer to another bank account, from which he keeps spending. And again, he simply cannot go and use the ATM card. He has to go and draw it, and which means he has made himself so difficult to take out the money, because let's say I'm so tempted to buy something, and again, they will entice us. If you buy it in the next 10 minutes, you will get 50% discount. But if you have to go through this process of transferring from one bank to another bank, get that OTP number, no, by then you're like, do I really need it? So this is one of the effective. And today, that friend of mine, the second friend of mine, now he has got like 3 investment properties, has his own home, got a work, and pretty much he doesn't have to work if required, but still he does it because he's like, hey, this is my income. Again, I'm saving it for a rainy day. Whereas the other friend, he comes from his father is a kind of a big shot, so he's still recklessly he's spending money, thinking that again no money is going to come from somewhere. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I'm saying is, as you rightly said, Jyothsna, that the discipline, financial discipline. So for international students, again, there is no magic wand where you can turn around the things overnight. Just make sure this side you are earning. Now, what is that you can trade as a student? I'm sure you have got some experience, you have got some expertise. Can you, I don't know, use some kind of your talent to sell something and get some kind of a small gig? It can be part-time, contracted work, or kill something on someone else's behalf. Because there are so many people who have got some amazing products, but they do not know how to sell. Again, in this lockdown, yes, we can't do door-to-door sales, and I used to do that. Somehow, if you can help someone sell something, you get a commission. So, like being like a middleman. I know it will not help you to make money overnight, but hey, I don't have any quick rich kind of a scheme for you to implement right away. I'm pretty old school when it comes to this. You will have to figure out. But one thing that I would like to emphasize is know your score, know your numbers, where you stand, and then you don't really need people to tell you what exactly you should be doing. So that would be my take on this, Jyothsna.
That's very, very helpful. I'm thinking to my life as a student. I'm thinking I wish I had known how, especially that tool that you shared. I wish I had had that when I was a poor student. Katrina, my question would be, what would you say to young families, particularly remembering that financial literacy is a very important social determinant of health, and also with family violence and all going up in the community, particularly now when everyone is very isolated? Do you have anything to add to what Chinmay just said?
Maybe not to add. It's probably it's a different situation. You're talking about families, but I would just say to anyone who is in a relationship and that they really should have their own bank accounts and know what's in there. They should know what's in their superannuation. If they do get superannuation, which most people should, even if they're earning over $450 a month, and next June that's going to come down to you can be earning $10 a month, and they're going to have to. Most employers are going to have to pay superannuation. So knowing what's in there, because historically women spend time out of the workforce caring for children, and then they might be part of the sandwich generation, like I am, and I've got elderly parents and a child at school, so caring at both ends. But women do have, I can't remember the figure, but significantly less on average superannuation than men do. So it's important to know that, and to if you can, to do something about it. And the other thing is, to have a separate bank account. And if you are in a relationship and you are concerned that there's family violence, to seek help. To seek help from an organisation like Safe Steps or 1-800-RESPECT, and make sure that that you've got all your documents somewhere safe, that if you ever did have to leave, that you've got documents to start up, to access your bank accounts, and Centrelink, you've got your birth certificate, your passport, things like that, or at least copies of them if you can't have the original, that you've got copies, preferably certified copies.
Great advice. Yeah. So I see I'm very conscious of time, and we are nearly coming to an end of this session. Just before we wrap up, I would like to ask both of you, what are the important learnings and things to watch out for, just to wrap up the session? And I'll go with you, Chinmay, first.
Okay. Somewhere I read, I think it was one of my mentors who said, the greatest challenge in life is to be yourself when the whole world around you is trying to make you someone else. And people are not as successful and as happy as they project themselves to be on Facebook. So just because someone is posting something doesn't mean that they're successful and happy, and we don't have to compare our life with their life, and we don't have to prove with all the tangible assets which we may not be able to afford at this particular stage in life. And again, we might end up using money that we don't have. To a great extent, stay away from credit cards. Again, I'm not saying credit card is bad or wrong or things like that. Before that, you need to understand how it works. So understand how it works, and then accordingly, you decide how to plan. Again, I'll come back to this particular thing. Know your score, know your numbers, because if you have to make any decision, then you will have to know the numbers. Otherwise, pretty much you're taking a blind shot, hoping that you're going to win. So first thing is know your numbers. Second thing is make sure you're always making more than you're spending. The third thing is save and then spend, rather than spending and then you're left with nothing and then you're trying to save. So that would be my closing remarks. Jyothsna, over to you.
Oh, I want a copy of that tool, if I may, when you are done.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. Over to you, Katrina. What do you have to tell our audience today?
I would say make use of the resources, the free resources that are in the community. And also on the internet, the Money Smart website, which I know we've put the link up on the Facebook page, has a lot of free resources. If you are in a position where you need a financial advisor, it tells you questions to ask a financial advisor when you're interviewing them to see if that's the one that you should choose. They've got about 10 different questions that you should ask. It's got a section on financial counsellors, what financial counsellors can do. Of course, I'm always talking about that. And it has, perhaps if you're in a household or a student and you're not in a business and you want a very simple budget, they've also got budget tools there that you can use. It's just a one-stop shop with resource.
Fabulous. I have written down so much that I want to share, because we work with seniors, we work with international students, we work with young migrants, young couples, and we work with women. And Indian Care, always with our remit of the various projects that we have, we want to empower our people and our community to make the best possible choices as they want to achieve their full potential while living in Melbourne. So this has been hugely, hugely helpful. And I think it has been a good mix as well, because Chinmay has brought in the conceptual thinking and the concept of financial literacy, and you have provided the tools to actually make what Chinmay says happen. So I think for me personally, it has been a solid, super evening. I hope my children were watching, because otherwise it's pointless. But anyway, so on that note, thank you very much for your time, particularly you, Chinmay, joining us from India, Bengaluru, and Katrina, thank you very much. Please stay safe and stay well. Namaste.
Pleasure. Namaste.
Thank you for having us.